Hello there. Welcome to Blitz Transmissions. This is the Blitzcast, episode 6. I am joined again this week by my lovely fiance, Jen. Jen, is this your second or third time on the show?
Third time.
Third time on the show. Before we get into the content of this episode, once again, as always, make sure to check out all the links in the description below, that being for my Discord, which I heard some people were having issues with the join link, so I changed it. Let me know if you are still having issues, if you were trying to get into the Discord. Additionally, then you can also check out my Instagram for the channel, as well as I have a separate Instagram page for my collection. It is Blitz Bounties, which actually is now also a series on the channel. You could check out a live stream on the YouTube channel where myself, Skywalker Hendrix, Commander Cook, Hybrid Toy Reviews, and 212 Hunter all shared our pickups and hauls from ICCCon. And in addition to that, you could check out all the ICCCon content that is out on the channel now from that awesome once-in-a-lifetime trip. Except it's not once in a lifetime, so we'll probably be doing it again next year. So, Jen, what's new in the life of you?
Still planning a wedding.
We made some progress today on planning the wedding. We did.
It's rolling along. What do I do? Sleep, eat, work, and take care of you, because you need a lot of help.
I'm a helpless, dumb little baby that can't take care of himself. So I have to feed him.
I have to water him.
I also have a Padawan braid now. Shout out to the Zoo Boy from Monday Night Figure Ball.
Very nice.
Yeah. Here's my Obi-Wan impression, my action figure Obi-Wan impression. Ready?
He's so good.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that's what's been going on. Just trying to care for my sweet soon-to-be husband and myself.
I'm just a little guy that just can't take care of himself.
No.
Just a couple. I'm gonna week to week just start doing some little Star Wars updates here. We are less than 2 months away now from the premiere of the Skeleton Crew series. Any hype at all for this show? Do you know anything about Skeleton Crew?
You showed me that one trailer, and I had no recognition. I had no opinion. I said, "Do we know who these people are?" And you said no, and then that was it.
And that's where I'm at. I have no expectations going into this show, and hopefully it makes me really enjoy the show, because I had no expectations for The Mandalorian or Andor, and those ended up being really, really good.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Aside from that, there's not really much else going on. They're doing some filming for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie right now.
Shout out.
Shout out Gromble. I got the Mythosaur skull under my shirt. Aside from that, that's pretty much it. It's been pretty dry in the way of Star Wars news. And Jen actually came up with this week's topic for the podcast. So, Jen, why don't you share with the viewers and the listeners here what you've got planned?
So my idea was talking about being the significant other of a collector, specifically a Star Wars collector, because I think there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of... I don't know. There's just, it goes either way. Either people get really interested to hear more about it, or they think you're a total nerd loser.
Yeah.
And they're like, why are you with a total nerd loser?
A nude nerd loser.
Nude nerd loser. So that's...
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm pretty cool. My mom says I'm special. But...
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic. So when Jen brought this up to me yesterday, as of recording this, I was like, that's such a cool idea, specifically because it's coming from your perspective, and it's not just me sitting in a chair going, but I'm cool and special too. So.
Well, and I think it's kind of interesting because when we started dating, I obviously knew nothing. I knew very minimal Star Wars, period, and then... My brothers collected some Legos when I was growing up, but that was about it. There's some like collecting, but not at this scale in my family.
This is collecting as a passionate hobby.
Yeah.
You know? It's a lifestyle.
Right. So that was kind of a shock, you know, when not a bad one, but just, you know, when we started dating, I just had no idea what that
when
meant.
I told you that I did a Star Wars podcast.
No, you said I do on our first date, you said, and I have a podcast.
Take notes, gents. This is how you bag them.
And
right
this was at the height of, like, Andrew Tate, like, being arrested and, like, all the
you have to be a Sigma.
The Sigma alpha male.
Your woman will do what you say.
So we hadn't seen each other in 5 years.
Yeah. And
so I knew nothing of your character, and you said, and I have a podcast, and my heart dropped, and then I went, oh, what about? And then you said, oh, Star Wars, and I went, okay, cool, tell me more about that.
Phew.
Woo! Tell me about that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So collecting for me is for I did a video on this on the channel like a week now ago. Collecting is my hobby I've been heavily into in my adult life for about 5 years now. Pretty much since I got out of high school. I've been really very heavily into the Star Wars collecting. For me, it's a part of my identity that I'm not ashamed of at all. That also just comes from being confident in who I am as a person in general. I think if you're interested in something and you're passionate about it, that not even just pertaining to Star Wars, that you should not feel ashamed of it. It's your life. You do the things that you enjoy, and you participate in the hobbies that you enjoy. And if someone else thinks it's stupid, I'm sure that they also are interested in something that you find stupid too. So it's all tit for tat in that way. You know, there's a lot of guys, you know, that make fun of my hobby. You know, their whole life is hunting, fishing, and lifting, and that for me, I think that lifestyle's stupid and boring. So, you know. That again, it's
wow.
It's tit for tat, you know. It is what it is. Everyone has their own thing, and that's why I think my thing is special, because you don't meet people every day who are into the Star Wars collecting hobby, especially someone as young as me. You know, my friends and I are really a small clique of a hobby, which is, you know, very, very heavily people who are like in their 40s and 50s right now. So
yeah, so I thought it would be kind of an interesting topic because like I said, I'm an outsider in it, but also Is
that the dog barking?
Yeah. Yeah. But also I've had some time now to really gain knowledge and know what the heck's going on. But also it's kind of interesting to talk about, like, when
Is the window open downstairs?
No.
So he's just barking for attention right now?
Yeah.
Nice.
Potty. So it's been really interesting as I meet new people in my adult life. And when people ask, what does my fiance do? And first I say he's a police officer, which has...
Does that make me sound cool?
Mixed reviews. And
That's true, too.
And then I say that he's also a Star Wars nerd, which also is mixed reviews. So it's, you know, he's the perfect guy for me, but not for everyone else, you know? But yeah, so I've noticed it's very split down the middle as far as, like, some people that I meet will be like, oh, yeah, I have a friend, or my husband collects things. Like, my supervisor at my job, when I first, you know, I'm talking about you, because you're a part of my life, and I said, he collects Star Wars, and I kind of have to pat it in a way, because I don't know how they're going to react, and I've been trying to not do that as much, because why am I... sugarcoating or, you know, whatever. And she was like, oh my gosh, my husband has 5 million comic books in our basement. And those, like, when they had, like, flooding a couple years ago, and she saved his comic books out of the things in the basement.
Wow.
You know?
She earns...
Yeah, so like...
she earns significant other of the year.
Some people get it, you know?
They do.
Whether it's Star Wars, which sometimes it's not, or just their hobby, like you were saying. Some people just have their thing.
Well, it's all relative. It's all what you see the value in. You know?
Right.
And I appreciate that you are someone who understands that I see value in all this.
Right.
So that is something I do appreciate.
I guess one of the things that stood out to me when we first started dating and I was learning about this, because when you don't know what this actually looks like
or how it works,
it can be kind of shocking, you know, and it's overwhelming. But the more I learned about it, I was more grateful that you had a passion, you had something that you were interested in that wasn't harmful, you know? Like, I don't know, it just could be so much worse than me gaining a hobby, too, because I knew nothing about Star Wars, and now I'm its #1 fan, and... just kidding, I'm mediocre fan. Novice fan.
Amateur.
And, so, you know, learning about it and appreciating that you have a passion for something that's not harmful, not boring, as like that's
There's always something new.
I know that that's also a relative statement, but like I'm glad that it's something that I can find interest in, because and that's why it works. Like I say this a lot. I'm glad that you're not someone who watches every football game, like, because I can't do that to myself. And that wouldn't be something that we can share at all. So I'm glad that this is something that I can learn from, and I can share in your joy a little bit.
I feel like it's kind of funny because this kind of gives me an opportunity to ask you some questions that I didn't even ever think to ask you. So here's a good one. So what is it like when we first moved in together, and there would be just like a week where like 10 packages are showing up to the house, and if you're home, I'm texting you like, hey, I should have just had like 2 boxes arrive, and then the next day it's like, hey, I should have just had a box arrive, and then we would go like another couple months with nothing showing up at the house, and then again they'll have a spurt in like a week where it's like, hey, I had like 6 boxes come in today, can you check?
I think it's taken me some time to... I get anxious about spending money. Yeah. Like, that's just my personal experience. So, I think at first I was getting really anxious about how much you were spending. Yeah. And we have pretty open dialogue about money, but, you know, when this is your hobby, and so at first part of me was like, maybe we should slow down. And I said this to you, I was like, do you think you should like slow down a little bit? Like, we don't know what's going on with these couple things in our lives, and so that was jarring. And then I'm finally getting it a little bit more of most of them aren't all being paid for
at the same time.
Yeah. And some of them, like, you have to jump on them or you lose them. Like, and it took me a while to wrap my head around it. I still don't get it. Like, not that I don't get it, but I was saying this yesterday about the rare things you're seeing at ICC.
Right.
Like, it's hard for me to fathom because I'm not in that hobby, in that community, but I understand way more now that, like, what I was seeing and getting anxious about is not the reality of how you were going about it.
Right. So, I mean, for example, it's like I think a good one is the pile of loot system.
Right.
With Big Bad Toy Store. I think right now I have 12 items in my pile of loot. I think they're all Black Series right now. But I haven't shipped my pile of loot in over a month. So, you know, that, and then I usually ship it every month.
Right.
So it's been at least like 45, 60 days that I haven't shipped anything, and this is the first time that a wave of characters has come out in probably like 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it too. I will say, to your money point, definitely as a collector, it can be very difficult to collect within your means financially.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm fortunate that I can pick up overtime almost and whenever I want. So I'm able to kind of put, if I want to get a couple extra things, if I'm, pre-ordering a lot of stuff, so the hot toys are a big one. I really try to make sure that I stay on top of it with paying off the hot toy payment
You
plans.
scare me. Because you, in like midsummer, you just said, hey, I ordered like these 3 hot toys. And I'm like, what? Like the hundreds of dollars ones?
Yep.
And then the other day you were like, should I get, like, you're like, oh, I probably won't get this one because it's going to get sold out immediately. And then you texted me, oh, I got one, and I knew it. Like, I knew that you would just be lucky enough to get it. But in my, it's okay. It's okay. It does, like, it scares me sometimes. But I know that I have my own vices that I purchase.
Yeah.
Sometimes out of my means. And more so than you do, of like, I know, well, anyway, we don't need to dive into
Taylor
that.
Swift merch and
Well, I wait for sales.
vinyl records and all that good stuff. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I kind of back to that point. It's very, very crucial if you're in the collecting hobby, not just for Star Wars. I know plenty of people who collect different lines. Like there's guys who do Star Wars and Transformers and G.I. Joe, and it's very important to not put too much on your plate. Me personally, I'm very against using credit cards in general, but especially when it comes to collecting. These are luxury items. You do not need any of the collectibles or anything like that. So if I don't have the money to pay for the stuff that I'm getting, then I'm just not ordering it. I'm not gonna, unless it's taking my money right away, I'm not gonna bother with pre-ordering something, because I need to know that I have the money now to pay for it, so that I don't screw myself down the road when this item ships, but also I have these other extra things I need to pay for. So that's a tip, definitely, just in general. Credit cards can be dangerous because you're spending money that you don't have. And then it's the idea, oh, well, then I'll just pay off the credit card. Well, that's a slippery slope, because then that can become, paying something off, putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Then you get another credit card, and then you're paying it off, then you have 2 credit cards now you're trying to pay off. And it's just not worth it. I tell my friends that are in this hobby all the time, the credit cards are not worth it. If you have the money, get it. If you don't have the money, that sucks. There's going to be another opportunity. Just a warning to other collectors. I really don't think it's smart to spend money you don't have, or to spend money that's out of your means. Again, I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I can just pretty much anything that I in my collection, and when I see it come out, I can just get it. I don't have to worry about that. But again, that comes from hard work and overtime and not being home, and there's a whole separate set of issues that come with never being home, and it's collecting is a hobby that can be addictive. Yeah. Especially when you first are getting really into it. That's why I think it's important to get involved with the community aspect of the hobby. That's something that probably has been interesting for you as well. Yeah. Is the friendships and relationships that I have made through this hobby. Yeah. You've met some of these people.
I've met most of them.
Most of the close ones.
I don't want to say it was like difficult or something. Like, but
Right,
it's.
right.
I mean, it's definitely different than how I know people.
How most people meet people, right?
Like I never played video games.
Yeah.
I never was really big into social media enough to like meet people through it. So that was just a new way of meeting friends.
Yeah.
But I think I'm really grateful that you have friends through this, because I'll be honest, like, I don't want to talk about all the things that you want to talk about.
What?
Like,
what do you mean?
I'm very supportive. I would like to pat myself on the back for that. Like,
You're very supportive.
I listen.
Yeah. And you even fake get excited with me sometimes.
I do.
You do, sometimes. Sometimes you convince me that you're actually excited about what we're talking about.
Sometimes I am. Sometimes I am excited. Like, oh, that's cool. Anyway, so I am really grateful that not only are they, positive men in your life, but also they're people that you can talk about your hobby with, your passion with, that actually know what the heck you're talking about. Because that's the other part of it. As much as like I can fake excitement, I can't fake knowing what you are saying.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for that, and I mean they're great. They're great people. They're going to be in a few of them are going to be in our wedding.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, several of them are going to be in our wedding, so.
I am.
Shout out to Hunter, Hendrix, Cook, and Hybrid.
I'm very happy that you have. You just have that outlet. I think it's always great. Speaking of that, I'm trying to get a book club together. Because I don't have anyone to talk about my books with that know what I'm talking about. But anyway, maybe I should start.
Help Jen start her book club.
I'll start a podcast.
There you go. There you go. And I can help you with that. You have a resource right here for you.
Yeah, there you go.
I really think that with this hobby, it's very important to have that sense of camaraderie, because we have the luxury now in this day and age of the internet, and it's very easy, obviously for the Black Series line, which is what you can see behind me on the shelves here, is my bread and butter. That's, I would say, where I have the most tight-knit community of people. That's because this entire action figure line is just Star Wars. Some of this other stuff is not all Star Wars. Like the Hot Toys is multimedia. Mm-hmm. So you got like Marvel, like horror characters, things like that, and it's kind of all encompassing, like pop culture. Whereas with the Star Wars stuff, there's just a special community, and I think it also speaks to the Star Wars fandom on a larger scale. There's just a deeper sense of community there than there is with other fandoms. It is good, though, too, because my friends and I will sometimes check each other a little bit. We'll be saying to each other, oh, yeah, like I just pre-ordered this thing, but I need to make sure I really watch what I spend for the next couple weeks here.
Right.
And then, a couple days later, that same person will be like, oh, dude, I'm looking at this thing right now. Look at this Facebook Marketplace listing or this eBay listing. And you're like, hang on, dude. Just let it go for now.
Yeah.
But it's a good deal, but it's going to happen again. You will find it again. So, it's nice to have that ability to check each other, and also keep a lookout for each other.
Right.
My friends and I, we've gifted each other stuff countless times because we just understand, what each other's looking for. We help each other out a lot, give each other deals, and that's another very special part of the hobby is that's why I think this hobby means so much to me, is because there's all those extra layers. It's not just I'm a guy who has a bunch of Star Wars stuff on display. I share that with other people. I talk to other people about it. I have, like you said, that outlet to share it with. And so it makes it so that I'm not just hoarding it all to myself like Smaug in The Hobbit, dude.
You're a little bit like Smaug.
No. How? Bad breath.
I think also what you've had with your dad too has been super cool to see with the things he's gifted you from his own collection, and just I don't know, I see how it brings him joy when you guys are able to share that as well as your brother, and have that with the three of you is really cool. And I'm glad that keep something alive. I don't know if I should say this about your dad getting figures.
What about it?
Keeping figures.
Go for it.
That is Tom's dad collects figures and keeps them unopened to give to his grandchildren in the future, and stuff like that makes me emotional, but we don't need to dive too deep. And I love that part of it. I love that there's a legacy there. I love that it can be something that you can inherit and grow together rather than just filling a basement.
Exactly. Yeah,
I feel like that is what the big misconception is. And maybe that's some people's reality.
Yeah, right.
But I think when I say it to people, that's what they're picturing, is that our garage is just filled with...
Thinking of the dad at the end of the Lego movie, Will Ferrell's
character. Floor to ceiling, nothing is shown, it's just hoarded.
Look but don't touch.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful that I can say, well, he has his room, and it's, he has this podcast, and it's just showing that you're not just hoarding it just to hoard it.
I have spent so many hours just future-proofing how I'm going to display something that's not showing up in the mail for a year. Yeah. I will be on this empty shelf down here, I made space for it so that in a year when this thing comes in, I can put it on that shelf.
Gotta keep it empty. And it cracks me up too, because you'll call me in to the room and you're like, I'm trying to figure out where to put this one card back on, and I don't have a match, and I'm never gonna get the set. Where do I put this? And it makes me laugh, but I like to be included,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I appreciate that. I like that you want me to be included.
Well, yeah, I generally, it's part of the reason that I have this social media presence is because I like to share this with other people. I would not be anywhere near as deep as I am into the collecting if there wasn't the community aspect of it, especially on the social media. I like to share this with other people, and it gives me an opportunity and an outlet to do that. And it is very important to me that it's displayed nicely. I'm very meticulous and detail oriented when it comes to how everything is displayed, and to me it matters, and to other people notice it. Other collectors, they pick up on that, and I see other people, the way they display things will make me change the way that I do it. And it's a lot of just conversations that can be had from it, and it just adds to that community aspect as well.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it is really cool to see you put energy into something like this that's not work related. It's literally just for your own joy. Yeah. And I think that's super important for people to have in their life, you know?
Absolutely.
Just doing something because it makes you happy. And I'm really glad that now your channel is a source of happiness for you. Less stress. And that makes me happy too, because I back to the start. I want to take care of you. And it's just super important to have some type of outlet, have a creative, this is a creative outlet for you.
Yeah.
Even though it's not drawing.
Yeah.
But you have to think. You think strategically. You think artistically about how you're going to display it, when you're going to buy certain things, which things to buy right away, and what things to look for.
Wait on, and
it's a lot of brain power, but I think it's healthy brain power.
Yeah.
And that's what's super cool about it. I think too deeply about things sometimes.
Sometimes you do. Every once in a blue moon.
But it's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I say this all the time. I personally, I deal with so much BS in my real life that this is a fantastic way for me to just have some kind of an escape in a way where I can just, whenever I'm doing things related to this hobby, it's just fun. Whenever I'm watching Star Wars, it's all fiction. I don't have to deal with the real life repercussions or stress of day-to-day stuff. It's a good time, you know?
It cracks me up because whenever, you're looking at Star Wars for the fiction, then meanwhile I'm like, what are the parallels between the U.S. government at the time and this Star Wars movie?
And that's a fun aspect of the franchise too, that is.
I'm overanalyzing sometimes, but it's still fun, but I'm like, what's the symbolism here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to talk about is like when I have a negative viewpoint, like when I tell people that.
Yeah. What's the usual reaction that you pick up on first?
Oh, okay. Oh, really? That's usually what it is. And it was kind of difficult to change my mindset about how I tell people about it because I was nervous that they would have that reaction or be, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Overly cautious of how people are going to react to my own life and my own fiance's life. I don't know. So it did take me some time because it was almost every single time. It was like, oh, really? Or, yeah, just, oh my gosh, like, he must really like Star Wars. That's, wow, what, is there that much to talk about? Yeah. Yeah.
There is, actually.
So, shout out to my mom. My mom said, this was recently, I was like, yeah, Tom's editing a review of a new action figure. And she goes, what is there to review? And I break out my...
Well, let me tell you about the articulation and the overlays and the paint applications and the reuse. That's literally what I said.
I was like, well, the joint articulation, how you compose it, and, if they have swappable heads.
Accessories,
I didn't
packaging
know.
Presentation.
Sometimes I don't know how much I pick up on what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny because I was able to be like, well, they come in different sculptures. Sometimes you need, they have a different helmet compared to the last release. I do shock myself sometimes on how much I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because it's interesting to see how much people care.
Yeah, like it's a problem for them,
and I think part of it is just not really getting, again, like thinking that you're just a hoarder and spending a crap load of money and wasting your life away, even though if they've met you, then I don't know.
They would know that's not true.
Yeah, right.
But again, that comes down to the point we made at the beginning. It only matters if I care what these random people think of me anyway,
And that's I think it's just your philosophy on how you deal with people is what's rubbed off on me.
Yes.
And it's really been helping me with just not only with this, but just being very upfront about my life and not worrying about what people think of it. So like our wedding. So talking about planning it, and like I want some type of Star Wars nod in our wedding at some point. We haven't locked down exactly what that looks like, but and then my mom's like, really? And I think she thinks it's fun, but it's I don't know if people fully get that this is a huge part of our lives.
And I get it. Again, lack of understanding. Just as much as I don't understand other people's interests and hobbies, that they don't understand mine, and it's just some people are a little bit more vocal about not understanding than others.
But I think the more that I've been open about it and how you've shown me the joy of this community and the joy of Star Wars stories and everything, I've been talking about it more, and I think people see that I also am starting to have a passion for it, not in this way, the way that you do, but
Star Wars is infectious. It literally is. There's a reason that it just pulls you in. Once you start watching the content and you watch more of it, and then you start to expand, and then the magnifying glass, kind of everything zooms out a little bit, and then you get more story and more story. And then there's this character that you see for a flash right here. Well, he's actually in this, and then we go and check out the,
right.
It's a lot of fun to explore all those different characters and stuff. Because of that, I feel like that's what makes Star Wars. That's one of the reasons Star Wars is so special. I mean, you went from little to no knowledge at all to now you can name different characters, exactly what designs are from what shows versus, most people don't know that stuff. So.
Right.
And I didn't force that on you. That's all just observation,
Yeah. I think what's cool too is thinking about how it's going to be weaved into our lives for forever, you know?
Literally.
And that's kind of what I was getting at with you and your dad. Like, this is going to be a legacy thing that, I would hope that at least one of our kids is interested in it. Yeah. It'd be pretty awkward.
Would be, yeah.
They're like, oh, and Dad's a total nerd.
How the loser sports kids.
But, and I'm sure they will think it's interesting because we'll raise them to think it's interesting.
Exactly.
But I that brings me joy of thinking about how we can show our kids something that helped us fall in love, to be cheesy.
In a way.
It was something that was really a part of right from the start of our dating, and it's pretty cool to be able to share that with the future generation.
Yeah.
I like the legacy part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's super cool.
Well, in the same way that my dad has passed down
right.
pieces of his collection to me, I would love to pass down all of it, pass down. It doesn't mean that, the next generation has to keep it or do anything with it, but I would love at the very least just for our kids to just enjoy it as much as I do and to have that experience with them. And in a way, again, we return to that, idea of community. It's at face value. Yes, it's pissing away money on luxury items and hanging them on the wall and going, wow, that's cool, I'm gonna get another. And that's if you don't understand it and that there's so much more to the hobby behind that first layer, if you don't peel back the curtain and look at what's behind it, then you won't understand. But I could literally tell you, I had Logan do this. I told Logan a couple weeks ago on the podcast now that you could point out any item in this whole room. I could tell you exactly where I bought it, when I bought it, and why I bought it. Mm-hmm. And he did. He picked out the most random thing. I told him the whole story right there, right out the gate. And that's another part of it too is buy what you like. If you're into this hobby, there's plenty of stuff that I skip out on. There's plenty of Star Wars Hot Toys that I don't buy. Believe it or not, right now, either available or on pre-order, there are over 100, and there are like 140 something Star Wars Hot Toys right now on order. And in addition to the hundreds that already exist.
Right.
So and there's plenty of Black Series action figures I skip out on. There's plenty of old action figures I will never bother to go back and buy. So that's another thing. Collect what you like.
I think that's something I had to learn too, is that it isn't mindless for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for me to understand that at first, because it just seemed like so much. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like it's not mindless, and you are picky.
I am.
In relation to how much there's available, you are picky. So I appreciate that for my own heart. But I said, I have my own things that some people don't get. Some people hate Taylor Swift, and I'm like, I just want to jam out to some girly pop music.
Yeah, dude.
Sue me.
I don't understand why you have to be a hater.
But haters gonna hate. So
true that.
But also, if I say that I read, and I work at a university, so this is also just intellectuals that I work with. I say that I
quote unquote intellectuals, right?
I read fantasy fiction novels, and they're like, "Oh, I read historical fiction, and
I'm a sad, boring loser,
and nonfiction mostly," and I'm like, "Well, that's not fun for me. I mean, it might be fun for you, but that's personal preference."
Yeah.
And I've been working on being upfront just with, and not being ashamed of
right
my personal preferences, and neither should you.
Neither should you. And that's the moral of the story. So what, if you had to name one, you don't have to give me a name of the person or anything. What's the funniest reaction to you telling someone about my hobby? What's the funniest reaction?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind is when we first started dating, and I was telling my friends. Yeah. Because I was still in college. I was a week away from my college graduation when we started dating. And telling my friends that you had a Star Wars podcast, you collected Star Wars, and you were and you were going to be a police officer. They were like, "Are you sure?"
Did those go together?
Oh, you want to date this person?
Jump into all that?
That was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not ashamed of it in the slightest, I have no shame in the hobby, because it's what makes me happy, and I really don't know what I would do with so much of my time if I wasn't...
You'd be so bored.
Dude, I'd be so bored,
I'm just thinking of when you have a day off and you don't have very much to do, and you just walk around the house, you pace. You'd just be doing that all day.
I'm a pacer.
You just go up the stairs and down the stairs and circle, and you would just pace all day. Your feet would be so tired.
There'd be marks in the carpet, permanent trail.
Burn marks.
Burn marks.
Just run through carpet. Cody would be tired. He'd just be chasing you, following you.
Shout out to Cody. He's tired. He's saying right now, as we're recording this, it's past his bedtime.
Yeah.
And so he gets a little frustrated when we're not in bed sleeping with him. Which Cody is actually named after a Star Wars character too. I think we've mentioned that on the podcast before. He's named after Clone Commander Cody. And
fun fact, our new neighbors in the neighborhood, they have a dog that's similar size and
same age
and same type of breed-ish, named Rex.
So Jen had a moment where she got emotional.
I didn't get emotional, but I
said that Cody found his Rex.
I just was very happy about it, because we almost named Cody Rex, because that's... Yeah. We love Rex in this house.
Love Rex.
We love Rex.
Some of us in different ways than others. Yeah, I mean, Again, when we started dating, that would have never. I'm sure that would have never been an option.
I didn't know any.
Naming a dog after a clone trooper.
Personally, I had my own list of pet names, but those went out the window. Just kidding. I have some for the cats.
The kitty cats.
Whenever we dive into the world of getting cats.
Yeah. But do you have anything else you want to add on this topic? I thought this was a really good one.
Thank you. I'm very smart.
You are. So someone has to be the smart and pretty one for me to be the dumb ugly one, you know.
We give and take.
We give and take.
We have our dumb and ugly days, and we have our smart and pretty days.
Yeah.
I had a one-on-one with my supervisor this morning. I said, I'm feeling kind of bright and shiny today, which is a gen term.
It is a gen term.
So, nothing to add. I think just love what you love and do what you do, and just don't care what other people think of it, because it's your own life, and they can stay in theirs.
Yeah. Do what you want to do. Bad is bad. Good is good. Good, bad, bad, good, good, bad, good.
So
good,
true.
bad, good.
So
bad,
true.
Good. And with that, guys, thank you for watching another episode of the Blitzcast. If you enjoyed and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. Make sure to check out my social media. Once again, all the links are in the description below. That's going to be all for this podcast, guys. I'll catch you for the next one. And may the Force be with you.
Bye.
Bye.